welcome back to the Film Reel Cast. We're back in Farmington, we're back at the barn, we're at the Shield. It's episode 9 already of season 1, can you believe it? We're nearly done with season 1 and things are still moving on. They're still breaking the rules and Vic is doing whatever he wants and he's getting away with it. So if you remember, as a recap, Julian originally grassed Vic up for stealing the cocaine. And then he's had pressure put on him regarding his sexuality that would be ousted at the barn. And Julian, it's a really, really good line that Julian says, "I'm not gay." And Vic says that I don't even need to prove that you're gay. Just me putting in a report will make people believe it and will change your life and ruin your life. And that's the kind of culture, thankfully it's being ousted now, but that's the kind of culture that is there and the pressure put on Julian to not be what he wants, to what he naturally is. And he can't live his life. And Vic's manipulating it like he does with everything. And you've also got Dutch. Remember, Dutch and Kim have hooked up. Dutch went back to take that famous last statement. And doing that, he was guided by Shane. Of all the people to be guided by or given advice by, especially romance or anything like that, it's Shane. So he went back there and he managed to pull Kim. But there's something wrong there, which we'll talk about later. I've got my suspicions that all is not right. But as I say, we'll talk about that later. She does appear later on. Okay, before we start talking about episode 9, Throwaway, please subscribe, leave comments, like, share. I really enjoy talking to people. I'm really passionate about the Shield. I love it. There's some really good forum on Facebook that I'm talking to a few other fans about. And it's just so iconic, this series. There is nothing else like it. The Wire comes close. But for me personally, I don't know, let me know what your thoughts. People often think The Wire is the best police series. But for me, it's The Shield, very close second, The Wire. But let me know your thoughts. What do you prefer? But as I say, comment, like, get involved, and share. And subscribe. It's important that you won't miss anything. So remember, I'm doing Cobra Kai as well, something which is absolutely amazing. So join in. It'd be really, really great to talk to you. Okay, on with episode 9, Throwaway of The Shield. So it starts with a lorry robbery, a good old-fashioned robbery. You've got a gang called the Lost Mags who are stopping the lorry. They take the driver out, or one of them gives him such a beating, whilst the other one steals the cigarettes and put them in the back of a van. It's Hector Estanza, who's the main leader, who's the one that's going to be responsible for the Lost Mags gang. And you can see the LM tattoo on his arm. It's quite distinctive. And that's identified by the driver when the police go and speak to him. And it's a gang that's known to Vic. It's known to the strike team. Lem plays a part in this. He hasn't been in it for a couple of weeks, but Lem's in it. This time Shane's gone. But Ronnie's in it as probably a 5-minute appearance. So Vic goes and sees one of his informants. Remember, they've got that distinctive tattoo. And the way he tracks him down is go and see a tattoo artist who says, "Have you done any tattoos like this? Do you know who they belong to?" One of them says, "Hector Estanza." So he knows who he's going for. So the strike team go to Hector's house, believing that he's going to be there, and they smash the door in and some guy runs through the back. They believe it's Hector. So Lem does what he thinks is right. He thinks the kid's pulling a gun, so he shoots him, and it turns out that it's Choco. It's the younger brother of Tigra, who was the ex-girlfriend of Hector. You will get there in the end, believe me. So what they do, it's a dilemma. Do you do the honest thing and just say it was a mistake? I thought he pulled a gun, I shot him. I didn't do it on purpose, I'm being honest about it. Or B, would you lie, set someone up, send them to prison, believing that they possibly deserve it, and walk away with a real clear conscience? Out of the two of them, you probably guessed it, that's right, it's B. Vic plants a gun on him and says that he was going to pull the trigger and it was a clean shoot and Lem took him down. He tells Aceveda that as well. And he says that he must have been part of his gang, and that Hector must have got away. Even though Tigra says this is utter nonsense, and he even says this isn't my boyfriend, this is my brother. He used to be in the Lost Mags gang, but he's not anymore. He's clean, and he's been clean and helping people get out of gangs for over 2 years. And this is proven by the probation officer who's been working with Choco and says, "I wish they were all like him." Because he says he was helping people get out, and they realise they've made that mistake, and they go and see Choco in hospital. And even Choco says, "I don't care that I want to go to prison. I just want you to keep my sister safe away from Hector." And they know they've made that mistake. And for a long time, Vic doesn't actually know what to do. So remember, Lem was responsible for the shooting. Has got a brain of sponge but a heart of made of pure gold. He says to Tigra, I'm going to protect you. And he says that without even talking to Vic. Remember, they do everything as a team. They discuss everything, mainly led by Vic. But he says, I'll protect you. So he stays around the house. And he sees like a branding on the side of Tigra's body, a big H. And she says that Hector did this, and it means that you belong to me. And Lem's got a soft spot. Remember, he's rid of wolf guilt. He's one of the only ones, the very few, who actually does have a conscience. So he goes around, unbeknown to Vic, who's actually got eyes on Hector's address, along with Ronnie. He goes around and he kicks crap out of Hector. And he burns his face with a cigarette. And he says, this is how it feels. You don't like it. You just pick on women. And he just flips his head. Fair play. Lem doesn't give a shit. He'll go around there and he'll just kick anyone's ass. If he thinks it's the right thing to do and it needs to be done, Lem will go around and do it. And fair play to him, because Hector's a bully. As we know from Cobra Kai, on this podcast, we don't like bullies. So fair play to Lem. But Vic is utterly shocked. He says, what are you doing? He goes, we're watching the address. He goes, how can we watch the address if you're going around there kicking someone's ass? And Lem explains the reason why, but he doesn't cut it with Vic. Vic says, this is what we need to do. We've got a purpose. Trying to think of a way to get Choco out of it and to get Hector in it. So Vic comes up with the idea of going in the property room and trying to steal the gun. But that doesn't work. The gun's all locked away secure. If they can get rid of Choco's gun, then there wasn't a gun and it can go away. So what they're going to do, and this stretches, I can go along with a lot of things, but this stretches belief. Hector is quite a big guy with shaved head. Yeah, I think he's either Hispanic, he's Mexican, I really don't know. So what he decides to do, goes to see his informant, the tattoo artist, and he gets some temporary tattoos. And the gun that is transporting all of the guns to go and be destroyed to this massive depot, he decides to rob that van, dressed up as the Los Mags gang, being Hector, to steal that gun, so the case will go away. And what he does is just nonsense. It doesn't even look like him. They pull the van over that's got all the guns in, all the property in, and they steal those guns. And he's meant to dress up. He's meant to look like, he's got a bandana on and a shirt on. He's meant to look like a Mexican or an Hispanic. And he's got that LM tattoo. And the driver believes it and he gets away with it. But when you see the pictures, there is no comparison. They don't even look alike. I wouldn't even say that Vic looks Hispanic or even Mexican or Latino. It's extremely far-fetched, but as usual, the plot's got to flow on and he gets away with it. They then go around to Hector's house, officially, as police officers this time, and arrest him, put the gun that they've stolen from the property store in his property, and they arrest him. So again, they've got the right result, but they've gone the wrong way, the dishonest way about it. And it was set up by them in the first place by planting the gun. So you've got to ask yourself, is it the right thing that they did to correct that mistake? Or is it wrong because they were dishonest? There's a real scruples about the way they do it. Hector, who did hold up that lorry at the start, who is a baddie, who is a criminal and is part of the gang, is now in prison. But it was done by Vic, the dishonest way. Now you've got to think, ask yourself, is that the right way of doing it? I mean, and if you think, yeah, what kind of person does that make you, you know? Because it is lying, it is deceitful. So it really poses a real difficult scruples question, as in getting the end result, but which way you do it. Is it the right way or wrong way? So, and this series, throughout all the 7 seasons, gets you asking that same question, especially in season 6, and I think season 7 as well. It really gets you thinking. There's often you think, I like Vic, I like what he's doing, but he's doing it the wrong way. Should I be liking Vic? Because he's the main protagonist. He's the baddie out of all of this, really, when you look at it. And you'll agree with me when you get further on down the line that he is the baddie out of all of this. The irony being the policeman. But you like him. And you've got to think, why do I like him? So out of the blue, Kim turns up to see Dutch at the police station, at the barn. I think this is the first time that everyone has seen Dutch's girlfriend. And she just says, "I was just being a helpless, like, damsel in distress, and something was wrong at home, and I needed to see you." But I think there's something underlying about her. There's something going on. There's some problem that hasn't come out yet, that will no doubt piss on Dutch's strawberries and ruin his happiness. And it hasn't come out yet, but I think that storyline's going to end up with Dutch being unhappy. At the moment, he's with a nice, attractive lady who really wants to be with him. But there's a few things that I think are going to happen that will ruin Dutch's love life. And it's a real shame because he's a really nice character. So another person that turns up out of the blue is Wims's dad and Wims's daughter and Wims's daughter's new boyfriend. And you learn that the daughter's been married for just 11 months before she split. And that the new boyfriend, who comes across as a nice guy, just isn't good enough for Wims. And Wim says you should have given that marriage a chance. 11 months, you could have rescued it. So she really takes a dislike to the boyfriend. And even to the extent, when they have an argument when they go out for dinner, but she even brings him into the interrogation room and sits him down in the chair where the criminals sit and questions him. And she says, "Do you know how smart my daughter is? Do you know where she could go in life? Basically, you're holding my daughter back. You're not good enough." And this guy is really put under the thumb screws by Wims, which is really out of order. She doesn't know him. This is the first time she's met him. So what does that tell you about Wims? Does it say that she's a person of tradition that believes that marriage is for life, and because her daughter's split up, that they need to rescue it because people get divorced and split up so easy these days without working at it? Or does it show something else? Does she just not like this person? Will there be anyone good enough for her daughter? I mean, what was the first boyfriend who turned into husband treated like? We just don't know. But this guy's unfairly put through the mill by Wims. And it's really interesting to see her do this, because usually she's just focused on work, but she really gives this guy a hard time. So Wims and Dutch deal with this guy, this old guy, to a garden chair. And it's found by Julian and Danny. And you can see Julian and Danny are giving each other a hard time. Danny isn't happy still with the fact that Julian grasped Vic up. Or so that's what she believes. She doesn't know the truth is they did steal the drugs. All she sees is taking Vic's side. And she believes that you need to be a family. You need to have everyone's back. And get the whole story before you go to the captain and grasp people up. Julian did all of those things and he was right. And he did have all the evidence. But still in the police, in the barn especially, you don't grasp on people and you're a rat. And being a rat, that will affect Danny as well. People will feel that Danny's exactly the same. She's wrong. She should have got all the facts and listened to what Julian said before she started giving him a hard time. And for that reason, she asked not to be his partner. But Acevedo says, no, that's nonsense. It's not school. We're not children. And you need to work things out. And you're a good officer. You're going for your sergeants. So you need to listen to Julian, work with Julian, and make him a better officer. Not just say, again, it's very similar to Wims's argument that things need to be worked out and you can't give up in the first bump in the road. And it's the same with Julian and Danny. Yeah, they've had an argument, but work it out. Just crack on. You're adults. You're police officers more than anything, and just move on. So that's what they're told to do by Acevedo. And they discover this guy locked in the garden. He's blind. And his son turns up, Lloyd. And Lloyd understandably gets arrested. His dad's been attacked by coyotes and other animals, just locked in his dressing gown in the garden, chained up like an animal. And he says that the mum left ages ago and the dad's put in hospital, and he says the same thing. My wife left 6 years ago. And he's blind. He says, I'm told all of this, the reasons why, by my son Lloyd. And it looks like that, and Lloyd's cashing checks from the mum who left. He says he missed some payments for the nursing home, so they kicked him out. And because Dad's blind, he wanders around, and that's why he chains him. I mean, it's disgusting behaviour. Who would chain their parents to a garden chair and leave them out all day, all night in the garden? I mean, it's wrong, beyond wrong. But Lloyd is saying he's got no money. His dad wanders around, so that's why he chains him up. And the way it's going, it seems as there's something more sinister underlying, as into why Lloyd's doing that. That they'll interview him, and he says the mum left, and that there'll be some background story as to Lloyd's. I know it's terrible what he's doing, but kind of a more devious reason why he's doing that, and that Lloyd isn't being truthful. But they do speak to the mum, and the mum sounds like a complete bitch, and it just wants rid. She doesn't care that Lloyd is cashing the checks on her behalf that she should be getting, that should have been cancelled, and that he's frauding the government. She just doesn't want to talk to Wims, doesn't want to talk to Lloyd, is not interested. So the story doesn't really go anywhere, and it's a bit of a filler. And these are really annoying when these things happen, because you think something's going somewhere and you want it to, because Vic's story, the one with Hector, is really fast moving, it's really exciting. But Wims and Dutch, their story just seems to be a filler, as in, yep, they're there, don't forget that's what they do, this is their relationship, and nothing happens. Lloyd is left at the police station. He is going to get charged with probably defrauding the government and assaulting his dad by leaving him out in the garden, and his dad goes into a nursing home, but nothing else happens, and it feels just a bit meh. Nothing else. It doesn't go anywhere, which is a bit disappointing, because these are two really good characters. So, and you also see Vic, for want of a better word, kissing Julian's ass, saying that we want you in the volleyball team, we want you playing in the softball team against the fire department. And Julian just says, you don't need to keep being nice to me. Like, I don't owe you anything, you don't owe me anything. Let's just stay away from each other. And Vic's trying to keep him sweet, because we all know that Vic set him up, put pressure on him, and he's got that threat over him, that cloud, that I can oust you, like, because you're gay. And Julian, rightly so, doesn't want to know. And again, it's a real shitty side to Vic, that he comes across in front of everyone that you're being a really nice guy. And again, Julian's the one who's being antisocial, but really deep down, that Vic is just being an asshole. But no one thinks that. So that was episode 9. Okay, nothing really happened to Armenians, nothing more happened with the drugs. It was just a normal episode, to be honest. It's not a bad episode. It wasn't a great episode. I mean, I love it when the strike team are all together, when it's Ronnie, Shane, Lem and Vic, when they're up to their neck in drugs and violence and gangs, and they're up to their neck in dodgy deals and setting people up. This is when the show, for me, is at its best, when it flows fastest. So I'd say I'll probably score this about a 7 out of 10 at the most. But again, it's like another filler. Sometimes you do get episodes where they just feel, and it's just setting you up for the next one of what's coming. So, but I promise you, this does get going, and it's a really, really amazing show. So I hope you enjoyed that short review of episode 9 of The Shield season 1. Remember, I've got Cobra Kai as well, an amazing series I really, really love. I've just finished reviewing episode 7, possibly. Maybe episode 8. I'm really, really smashing those reviews out now. They're available on my other on the same channel, on the other playlist, Cobra Kai season 1. So subscribe to my channel and you won't miss a single review. We've also got the audio podcasts, over 100 of them, on iTunes, on Android. They're available. The icon's there. That's the one. Just look at that one on iTunes and on Android, and you can subscribe. Again, we're going to do another recording, another podcast, audible with myself and James. That will be coming out the following week. We've got Police Academy we've just reviewed as well. So there's something for everyone. There's horror, there's action, there's comedy. Really, really good. Okay, so I'm Stuart. This is the Film Reelcast, and I'll see you next week.